Hi there, welcome. This is David Cameron Gikandi, and I am very grateful for your presence. So, this is an introductory video whereby we're going to be introducing the quantum manifesting secrets by first asking the question, in the first place, what is quantum manifesting? And is that even possible? Is it possible, or is it just like some woo-woo, some voodoo stuff, or some make-believe kind of magical thinking that really doesn't have any basis? Or can we provide scientific proof behind any of this? Can we prove with various fields in science, such as psychology, such as physics or whatever, that this actually works? So that's the purpose of this video and this particular lesson. And then after that, we shall start getting into the actual practice of how to manifest in quantum leaps. Okay? So let's do that. We need to first understand whether this is even something that is possible or reasonable before we can even start getting into the so-called methods or techniques. I prefer to call them practices. Okay, so let's get onto it. So the big idea here is that although quantum leaping or quantum manifesting sounds like magic at first, it's actually based on a very, very simple idea. And that idea is that we have been domesticated, okay? We have been socialized, we have been programmed, we have been conditioned by our society, by our programming. By our upbringing, by the mere fact that we came to this planet and we grew up in it, and this planet already had certain sets of ideas. And so the societies we were born into, the families we were born into, they were already conditioned and domesticated and socialized and programmed and all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of like not their fault that they just simply passed on what they knew. They're just doing their best. So this is not a blame game, but it's important to understand that you, me, we have been conditioned to think way too small of ourselves and of our world. You have greatly been taught to underestimate yourself and your world. And that's the big idea. So the big idea here is that you have been trained, literally, for decades probably, depending on your age now, to underestimate yourself and your world. And I understand that you might be listening to this and you've probably achieved a lot in your life. Maybe you've built a family, maybe you've built a business, maybe you've overcome obstacles. So, I'm not trying to diminish your achievements so far. I'm just saying that relative to your potential, you have been taught to vastly underestimate yourself. So, respect and hats off to whatever you've achieved. I'm just saying that, there's so much more. And this is not about greed. This is about recognizing what you really are, okay? So I'm suggesting to you that you have not even begun to scratch the surface of what you and your world are capable of. And the minute that you're willing and open to look at yourself and your world in a whole new way, you will automatically be capable of experiencing quantum leaps into the true vastness and the true greatness of what you really are. So your life, everyone's life, my life, everyone's life, your life, is capable of taking quantum leaps into realities that may currently be beyond your present level of belief. In other words, the kind of stuff you're capable of, if somebody actually showed you a picture or a video of it, you go, get out of here, man, you're joking, that's not me, that's not possible. So this is the level of underestimation that we're talking about. Your life can literally change in the blink of an eye massively if you are willing and open. And so that leads us to the question, so David, if I am so amazing and magnificent, why am I stuck? And that's a good question, isn't it? So why do so many people feel stuck in limited realities, in realities of struggle and all that sort of stuff, And by the way, before we even get any further, I want to tell you one thing. Even once you understand the principles of quantum manifesting, you will still face challenges. It's just that you'll be on a new level. It's kind of like saying, when you're learning how to drive a car and the challenges are on, how to change the gear, how to turn the steering wheel, how to navigate the roundabout or the traffic lights, they're still challenges, but they're like low level challenges. And then when you go to a race car driver, maybe a rally car driver, Formula 1 car driver, Indy car driver, doesn't matter. Those guys are racing at 200-300 kilometers an hour. So they're quantum level of driving, right? But they still have challenges. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, nevertheless, the question is, why do people still feel stuck in very tiny, limited realities of struggle, in this basic survival level nonsense, Or maybe even not survival level, maybe it's a higher level, but it's still stuck, And so to answer that question, we must first talk more about conditioning. This is so important to get, because this is actually the one and single roadblock between you and a quantum leap. That's it. You don't need to literally acquire more anything. You already have it all within you. The problem is that it is covered or blocked up by conditioning. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Okay? So that's why you need to understand conditioning. It's not that you need to acquire more abilities so that you can finally be able to manifest. No, you already have it built within. What you have to do is empty your cup of the conditioning. Okay? So let me ask you a question. How do you control an animal that lives freely in nature? How do you do it? I give you a moment to think about it while I have a sip of my tea. By the way, good morning. It's morning here. I'm sitting out here in Australia. It's the beginning of a beautiful day, and I hope that this will be the beginning of a beautiful journey and a whole new era for you after taking this course. So, yeah, we're keeping this real. Cool. So, my opinion of how you control an animal that lives freely in nature is that you program it. You condition it, you socialize it, you domesticate it. Correct? Think for example like a dog or a cat. When you get a new puppy or a new kitten, it's going to be taking a crap all over your things. It's going to be scratching everything and biting everyone. So, running off and trying to bite people, trying to do things that is natural to it because that's its nature. It's wild. It's not bad. It's not misbehaving. It's not naughty. That's what it does. So if you want it to sort of toe the line, you gotta domesticate it. You gotta condition it. Correct? Now, how do you condition it? Well, you do that through a system of reward and punishment, right? I think we're all familiar with this because we have all gone through it. And we have all made people under us go through it. In other words, we've all been conditioned and we have all conditioned other people. Every society tries to get hold of you and make you compliant, make you a productive and, dare I say, paying member under their control. That's just what society does at our current level of evolution, okay? And it is done in many different ways, obviously. But the basic framework is reward and punishment, reinforcement and punishment, reward and punishment. Same thing, two movements, because they're based on the human being or the sentient being, even dogs and cats and animals and birds and fish and reptiles have the same thing, even bacteria, they want to move away from pain and move towards pleasure. And that is why conditioning is done through reward, in other words, pleasure, and punishment, in other words, pain. Okay? That's it. It's not done by, oh, this is the right thing to do, so let me tell you what the right thing to do is and you'll do it. No. Creatures don't obey the so-called right thing and wrong thing and good and bad. They run from pain and move towards pleasure. End of story. The rest is just narrative. Okay? Now, so we were saying that every society tries to get a hold on you and make you compliant, make you productive, and make you a paying member under its control. And it is done in many different ways, but the basic framework is reward and punishment because of the pain and pleasure principle. So societies force you to belong to a group or to belong to an ideology or, to belong to a belief system and so on, And then that is played on with the threat of your failing to deliver on your commitment, of being a so-called bad person or being a so-called misfit, you don't fit in, being a so-called failure or whatever it may be. So in other words, the judgment starts. Oh, you failed to live up to your conditioning. So here's a judgment, here's a label, you're a failure or misfit or whatever, and here's a punishment. So the point is, at our current level of evolution, society needs to control people. And it needs to have everybody marching in one direction so that society can function, And to achieve that, leadership needs tools of coercion, tools of putting pressure and forcing people to obey. That's what leadership needs, because the wild creature, including the human being, is just not going to voluntarily submit to, unnecessary tyranny. Do you see what I mean? So leadership has to use tools of coercion. Now, that leadership could be anything. It could be parents, it could be teachers, it could be older siblings, older brothers and sisters. It could be neighbors, it could be the government, it could be the boss at work, and even the media, you see? Because, it doesn't matter who is at the top of the power structure. We're just going to call it a leader for now, And so you and I, get all sorts of messages and all sorts of pressure to play society's game, to belong, to join the tribe, For example, they tell you that you need to go to school, you need to obey, you need to behave when you're there, and you need to believe what you're taught, what your teacher is telling you, and then you need to pass the exams and the tests and prove to the teacher and to society that you have got it right, that you have passed your conditioning. And then when you grow up, you're told that you must get status by getting on the property ladder, for example. You must buy that particular house in that particular neighborhood so that you get this status, because status rewards you somehow, And to get that property, you need to get a mortgage to be on it, okay? In fact, they even go so far as to give you certain tax breaks if you have a mortgage rather than if you purchased your home outright in cash without a mortgage. Think about that. That's crazy. The government, well, not in every country, but in many countries, actually rewards people for taking the mortgage. If people buy the house in cash, there's sometimes even a punishment. Like, where did you get that cash? Why? Why are you doing that? No, better to have it on debt, You'd think that they would reward you for buying it in cash, but they actually reward you for buying it in debt, okay? Because once you're in the game, and by the way, this is just one example. So once you're in the game, whether this is a mortgage game or whatever, any of the many arms of society, once you're in the game, then they have something on you. For example, with a mortgage game, you have to stick with the job that you have, because if you don't, you lose your income, which means you lose your mortgage. And because society needs you to have a job so that you can pay taxes, so that you can stay busy and compliant, by filling your day with being busy, playing your role, you're rewarded for that, And the person who decides, screw this, I'm going to pack it all in, I'm going to just do my own thing, and I'm going to, get off the grid, maybe just go sailing, live off the grid, or get a shack, build my own home, which I build in 2, 3, 4 months with the help of my friends. So instead of paying a mortgage for 30 years, I just get my friends together and we get together and we build bricks out of the earth and out of the natural materials around us. And then we put this structure up. We have a nice house, party done in a few months, don't owe anybody anything, put solar cells, put our own water supply, everything, go off the grid. Ooh, that's not generally looked upon very well. That's funny enough, You get it. Because living off the grid and growing your own veggies does not pay taxes and does not keep you compliant to the system. So you find that society will look at you funny if you do your own things. And by the way, I know we're talking about quantum manifesting, but this is so important to get, And so the government will withdraw its incentives when you do that, when you do your own thing. People might even start calling you a nutter when you do your own thing, okay? Later on, when you're successful, they'll start writing about you and saying, wow, look at this guy. Look at this woman. She's done amazing things, doing her own things. But when you first start off, you're going to face some friction because you're not playing the game of conditioning, And by you not playing the game, you're threatening the system. The other people see, oh my God, that's possible, and either they get envious and they're like, why is he not contributing the way I'm doing it, or they go like, maybe I can do that. I'm going to drop this game and do that thing that I can see that other person doing. So one way or another, through your independence, you're threatening the system. Do you see how deep this thing goes? It's so deep, it's in our skin. Conditioning goes so deep in our skin, we don't even realize we've got it, okay? And we're getting to the quantum leap. This is very important. So, carrying on, as we said, society is always trying to lock you into some kind of a club, whether that is a family or a school system or a nation or whatever, some kind of a club. And through that belonging, they use the carrot and the stick, pleasure and pain, reward and punishment, to stroke your ego so you can be a part of something as they define it for you. You understand? You were born and you found things defined for you, and you're simply told you must now belong to this thing we've defined for you. So, when you comply, they give you some kind of acceptance, some kind of approval, whether that acceptance is conditional love. In other words, I will love you if you do this, or if you obey, or whatever, You get some good conditional love, you get acceptance, whatever. Maybe you get status, maybe you get a grade. If you're in school, you get a grade. If you're on the job, you get a salary. If, join the military, you get a medal, or whatever, you get a title, and so on and so forth. You understand, right? And then there's now the new threat of taking that away. What you are given, there's now a threat of taking it away if you stop your compliance. And that is what keeps you in check. That is what maintains the conditioning. So after the training, there's the maintenance. So you don't think about freedom. And this happens almost from the moment you're born. And we have to be honest. Not all of it is bad for you, man. That's the truth. You and I actually need some of it. For example, you and I, everybody, we all need how to wipe or wash or spray our butt after going to the toilet, depending on which region you come from. I've lived in Asia, and I love the gun, we call it a bump gun, but it's kind of like a bidet. And so we don't use toilet paper over there. You spray it. It's actually a very high-tech way of doing it. I don't know why people use toilet paper. Anyways, now I live in Australia, And I've lived in the US, I've lived in Europe, I've lived in Africa, I've actually lived all over the world. And I don't know why I'm talking about toilet paper. It's the coronavirus time and everybody went and ran and bought toilet paper. Now it's on my mind. Anyways, now they've stopped buying toilet paper, so that's cool. But anyways, so depending on which region you're born, you need to be trained to either wash your butt or spray or use toilet paper, whatever. You need to learn that stuff, right? That's part of conditioning. And if you refuse, you need to get a little bit of a soft punishment that doesn't cause trauma, something that is done with love, so that you bloody comply. Okay? Another thing, you and I both need to learn to read and write, and understand language. We also need to get along reasonably well with people without becoming a people pleaser and losing ourselves, but, and without also becoming a rude person or whatever. You know what I mean? There's a fine line there. We need to learn how to get along with people without losing ourselves and without also abusing people and so on. So some of it is actually very useful and very necessary, and you need it. But a lot of it is extremely dangerous and bad for you. And the reason why is because you are fed a set of beliefs that are actually an energy trap, and they are actually a consciousness trap. You get what I'm saying? Beliefs create reality and motivate behavior. So if you buy into the wrong set of beliefs, and by the way, most of our beliefs are bloody wrong and limiting. Most of the ones we'll be conditioned with. Not a few, it's most. When we do that, when we buy into such limiting beliefs, we create consciousness and energy traps for ourselves. You see? And so the quantum manifesting secrets that we are about to get into, those practices are simply ways and methods for you to go beyond these consciousness and energy traps. I'm going to be teaching you methods that some of them will help you directly just find the belief and sort of change it. Sometimes that's possible. Sometimes that is not possible. So some of the other methods I'll teach you are, we're just going to pull the trigger and do things anyways. And when you do that, your body will freak out. And when it freaks out and starts screaming, you'll be able to spot the belief and you'll be able to change it on the spot. So sometimes you can change a belief by sitting down and simply learning information. But sometimes it's so hidden that that's not possible. You literally have to do the thing you're scared of. But then if you do it without the right techniques, then the fear will win. But if you have the right techniques, you'll be like, it's kind of like going fishing, You'll be like throwing in a line so that you can catch a fear. And when the fear bites, you're like, good. Then you pull the fear out of the subconscious, out of the water. Boom, you pull it out, you got your fish, put it on the boat. That's kind of like pulling the belief out of the subconscious, out of under the water. Put it on the boat and now you can see it. So some of the techniques are going to work like that. So it's not going to be always easy. It's always simple. I can guarantee it's always simple. But it's not always easy. And that's because of the conditioning again. The invisible traps, okay? So, with the quantum manifesting secrets, we are not speaking of magic tricks or woo-woo, hocus-pocus voodoo here. Instead, we are speaking of going outside the consciousness. We're going outside the energy trap that was placed around you. That is all. That's all we're doing. And my point here, again, is that there is a system of metaphysical control that is in place around you. It's a socialized pressure matrix, and that system conditions you to believe certain things about you and to believe certain things about your world. These things could be completely wrong and completely messed up, but the members of that society still believe them. Okay? So the so-called good things or bad things are not really based on absolute or ultimate goodness or badness. They're simply based on conditioning, if that makes any sense. And you'll see more of this as we go along, okay? So the idea here is to understand that we believe a lot of wrong things. and messed up things. But because we all do it, it seems, in quotes, normal. And so it seems like the right thing to do, even if it may not be. You see? And so this is where the quantum leap secret lies. It lies in the fact that you do not have to uphold your conditioning. You can absolutely drop it and be free of it. Yes, you can do that. You can, in the words of Jesus Christ, also known as Yeshua ben Joseph, in the words of Jesus, you can be in this world but not of it. In other words, you can forget all that shit and be like a child, but even as you're an adult. So you can have the maturity of an adult and be like a child. You can be in this world and not of it. You can literally die and be born again. And by dying, I mean your conditioned unconscious ego that is asleep. That false self, the mask, the persona, the set of personas. By the word personality comes from persona, which is a Greek word for mask. So as we grow, as we are conditioned, we develop false selves. We develop personas, masks. And then we identify with these masks, and then we say, this is me. But then that mask is full of all that crap. And so when you die, literally it's that mask that is dying, it's the false self that is dying. Now it's gonna scream because it doesn't want to die, but it's just a collection of ideas and energy, and it feels real. So it's gonna resist its demise, but then boom, it dies, and then the true self arises, it's born again. That is the legend of the phoenix. You know the phoenix, the bird that crashes, boom, into a ball of fire and then is born again. This is the hero's journey. The hero's journey is all about death and rebirth. You know, you go from the known world, you go into the unknown world. You meet tests, you meet allies and mentors. For example, I'm your ally and your mentor in this journey with this particular course, right? You meet challenges, and these challenges are literally there designed by life to help you face these false identities. And as you overcome them, they die. And then you have rebirth, resurrection, boom. And you come back to, again, the so-called known world, but this time you have an elixir, a new gift to share with others. That's the hero's journey. Be in this world, but not of it. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. That's Bob Marley who said that. And the Bible in Romans 12:2 says, and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. That's what we're getting into. Okay? Now this is the second last slide, and here we have a couple of images. Now I understand these images may look confusing. I have been told that officially by a very cool graphic designer who actually should have sat with him to clean this image up, but you know, got busy. What I would like us to say about these images, and actually what I'll do is I'll give you a moment to look at these images for yourself before I start speaking. So, moment of silence as I sip my cup. Okay. Now, once we are conditioned, we create what is known as a comfort zone. The comfort zone is called that because inside it, we feel less fear than when we are outside it. Okay? So the idea of going outside our comfort zone fills us with fear. Okay? You know? Now, I'm not saying the comfort zone may feel comfortable. Some people actually have a really crappy comfort zone. Some people have grown up in a lot of abuse and trauma. And because of that upbringing of decades of traumatic experiences or abuse or whatever, they've become used to staying inside a very tiny little box, which actually feels like hell, but that is their comfort zone. And leaving it feels terrifying. So the word comfort, don't let the word comfort confuse you. It's actually not comfortable. Outside the comfort zone is often better, even if you're actually comfortable. Okay. Not until you've found yourself. Once you've found yourself, then the comfort zone starts being actually more and more comfortable. So the English language is quite funny sometimes. Now, once we are conditioned, we create what is known as a comfort zone again. Okay? So, like we said, the comfort zone feels safer inside. Outside it feels fearful. And so, do you know where that fear came from? The fear came from conditioning. That's where the fear comes from, okay? So the system of reward and punishment that we personally experience is what determines our personal comfort zones, okay? So there is no universal comfort zone. You have your personal comfort zone. I've got my own personal comfort zone. Everybody has their own definition of their personal comfort zone, okay? And the comfort zone tricks us into believing that we must stay inside it, or else if we leave it, we will face hell on the outside, okay? So even if outside the comfort zone everything is actually totally safe and good, even if outside the comfort zone everything is actually better, okay, for that person to go outside their comfort zone, that person still fears going outside that comfort zone. So the comfort zone is not based on actual comfort. It's based on perceived comfort. In other words, perceived. It's in your mind. Perceived comfort. The comfort zone contains false selves. Those personas, the masks we talked about. In a prison of the mind. In a prison of certain emotional patterns. Okay? And so the point here is that your potential is far, far greater than your false self-images, than your personas tell you. Do you understand? You are not what you were told you are, and the world is not what you were told it is. That's just your comfort zone telling you that. Your conditioning telling you whatever. The world is as you think it is, and you are what you think you are. That's just your conditioning, your personas, your identities that you've adopted through that system of socialization. So I'm suggesting to you, this is just a suggestion. You can throw it in the bin if you don't like it. But I'm suggesting that you don't even realize or recognize how vast your potential actually is. You don't even have an idea of how vast it is. I don't have an idea of how vast my potential is. So I'm not trying to be better than you. I'm saying we're on the same boat. I also don't know my infinite potential. Because up until now, no one has told you about it. No one has told me about it. You know what I mean? And no one can actually tell us about it. Partly because they don't know, and partly because they were all too busy conditioning you to fit into the society. So how could they then tell you, oh, by the way, I'm telling you this stuff which is going to limit you, but this is false. They're not going to tell you that. And they were not told that. They have to act like the crazy crap they're telling you is for real. You know? And that's where I come in. I'm not here to get you to fit in. You know? I'm not here to get you to rebel either. I'm not trying to make you a rebel. And I'm not trying to make you compliant. I'm here to get you to re-examine what you have been told. That's it. I'm not even trying to make you believe me. In fact, you do not need to believe me. As a matter of fact, I insist that you do not believe me. Instead, simply consider what I will present to you and then test it for yourself. I dare you. I double dare you. Test it for yourself with an open mind. Investigate it and then make your own conclusions. Okay? And so, as we come to the end of this particular introduction, that's a pretty long introduction, David. It's going on to 35 minutes. Well, put quite simply, you've got to get out of jail, man, or lady, or woman, or child, or kid, or extraterrestrial. I don't know who's watching this. That's quite simply the thing we're talking about here. You've got to get out of your comfort zone. And by the way, that's not done by hard struggle and hard work. That's part of the conditioning talking. Like, oh, I gotta bash hard. You know, we've been conditioned that everything is masculine. Everything is like push, struggle, fight. The fight against this, fight against that, fight. Nah, that's not how that's done. I mean, yes, work might and actually will be involved. There'll be actions to be taken. But to be honest, the bulk of the work that we're talking about when it comes to leaving your comfort zone and is non-physical work. Okay? It's non-physical work. Yeah, there might be a bit of learning involved to acquire new skills here and there. But the bulk of the work is actually about liberating your mind, liberating your emotions, liberating your spirit, becoming an untethered soul. And if you're not willing to do that part of the work, then this is not for you. I'm sorry to say. If you're not willing to do the non-physical work of liberating your mind, your emotions, and your spirit, if you're not willing to do that, then this is not for you. And let me tell you why that is so, why you must be willing. You must be willing to go beyond what you've been conditioned to believe about yourself and about your world, because that is what is limiting you. And I'm not saying you need to believe me. Don't believe me. Okay? Do not believe me. I'm here only to sort of like give you suggestions, you could say. Okay? But there is an absolute requirement that you must be willing to go beyond what you've been conditioned to believe about yourself and about your world. And I did not make this requirement up. That's just how it works. Now, I can show you the door, but only you can choose to walk through it. The intent, the choice to dare greatly and to do something different has to come from you. You are the one who has to leap. And by the way, when you leap, the net will appear. Life is benevolent. That's another thing this whole quantum leap starts to teach you, that you can start to trust the universe. You know, we're told that we live in a dangerous world where it's survival for the fittest. Have you heard that shit before? That's part of the social conditioning. It is not a dangerous world where it's survival for the fittest. That is old energy. We're in a benevolent, intelligent universe that does and has done so far so much to keep you alive. If you think of the miracles that have happened and happen every nanosecond to keep you alive and to keep you here and to keep this whole universe running, you'll understand that this universe is invested in you. It's benevolent, it's intelligent, so you can start to trust it. You need to... Trust is one of the biggest things that is part of quantum leaping and quantum manifesting. You gotta trust yourself way more than you do right now. And that means you gotta stop caring what other people think. You know? And you gotta trust the universe, trust life. Big time. Like, that's the golden key. Okay? Yes, gratitude is the power and all that sort of stuff, and that's true. But trust in the universe and in yourself, that's the golden ticket. Okay? So leap and the net has to appear. But I can't leap for you. You gotta leap for yourself. Hey, that's how it works. That's how it has always worked. All I can tell you for now, before we move on, is that this process is completely safe. I did not say it's not going to have challenges. I did not say it's not going to sometimes feel weird. Like, whoa, what the hell am I doing? You know? Sometimes it's going to like make you freak out. Because that's the old conditioning, freaking out. It's actually not you. It's your personas freaking out. The old identities. But it's actually completely safe. However, it's not always going to feel that way. It's not always going to feel safe. Your mind will scream like hell, you know? The minute it notices that you're trying to break your beliefs, your mind is going to go batshit crazy, okay? Sometimes your emotions are just going to go poof, and your thought, you know, the noisy monkey mind is just going to go poof. But that's cool. You just notice it. You just watch it. That's part of the skills that you're going to learn. That's part of mindfulness and awareness and so on. Your conditioned ego, facing its own metaphoric death, you know, we talked about that, will at times fight you. You know, it will. Your emotions may flare up. Your thoughts may flare up. But what I want to encourage you with is that you just keep in mind, just know that fear is false evidence appearing real. Let's talk real quick about that. What do you mean fear is false evidence appearing real, David? You know, you're just trying to be cool. This is what I mean. If you're sitting in your home on the couch and for some reason a lion, a literal true as hell that you can touch it, jumps in through the window and starts walking towards you going, that fear is real. You need to fucking run. Okay? That's real fear. But if you're sitting in your house, everything is cool, and your mind is flaring up like anxious, panic, your emotions are flaring up, but literally your physical environment around you is calm. There's nothing going on. All the images of hell are in your mind. All this, your body's on fire, you're freaking out. That is false evidence appearing real. It only appears real because that energy stream is happening in your body, so it feels like it's inside you, and so your body is feeling real. It feels real. Do you understand? Because it's running through your nervous and endocrine and energetic system. It feels real. Okay, so the feeling is real. Okay, the why is a lie. The conclusions of this feeling, of these energy streams in your body, the shit they're telling you, that's the lie. That's the false evidence appearing real. Do you understand that? The mental images coming up in your imagination, you're just making that up. So the feel is real, the why is a lie, and that is why fear is false evidence appearing real. I'll say that again. The feeling is real, the why is a lie, and that is why fear is false evidence appearing real. Does that make sense? It just feels real because it's in your biology. But that doesn't mean what it's telling you is for real. Have you noticed that most of the things you worry about don't actually come true? And the older you get, the more you realize that. Anyways, at other times, you may feel as if you're betraying your parents, okay? When you start doing this quantum leaping we're talking about. You know, it may feel like maybe for example, your grandmother taught you something that you've held dear all this time, okay? And now you must let go of it. So you feel a sense of like, oh, I'm betraying my dear grandmother, what she told me that was so dear to her and that was so much meaning, and now I gotta let it go. I feel like I'm betraying. You may feel like you're betraying all sorts of members of your tribe. They could be your friends, they could be your family. Maybe your father taught you, for example, to obey and respect authority in a certain way, or they taught you a certain principle. And now you must drop that stuff, right? And so you might feel like you're letting your dad down or something, you know? Maybe your society, maybe even your religion, you know, your friends, maybe even your partner, you know? Maybe your kids, maybe your parents, whatever. There are a lot of principles and players and principalities. Ooh, I like that. I just made that up. Principles, players, and principalities. Ooh, that's cool. Anyways, there's a lot of people that are probably going to get upset, okay? Because they expect you to keep playing the role that they have become accustomed to. So you can expect this sort of resistance. So both from inside you and from outside you, okay? But all these things are not new. They are part of the challenge of awakening, man. It's the, that's the The challenge of awakening to the ability to make quantum leaps comes with this territory, okay? Because you're going to become a different being. Same being, but different. Sort of like same, but different. You get what I'm saying? Now, in our future as a society, and I'm talking many, many generations from now, maybe, I don't know, maybe 100 years from now, maybe 200 years from now, I don't know. Once humanity has evolved and passed beyond our current, and I call it a barbaric age, our current barbaric age, we think we're evolved and developed, and we have come a long way. But we're still barbarians, we're still bombing each other, doing weird shit, That's barbaric behavior. We have not achieved peace on earth. And by the way, the day when we're going to achieve peace on earth, that's not the target. That's not the end goal. That's the beginning. Because think about it. If you and I are fighting all the time, that's all we're going to be doing. We're not actually going to progress. But the minute we have peace, you and I, we can now start to really do amazing things. So peace on earth is not the end goal. It's the beginning. So before that date, we are barbarians. Sorry, that is the wrong terminology. We are not barbarians. We are acting barbarically. Okay, I correct myself. We are acting barbarically. We are in a barbaric age. We are human. Acting barbarically in a barbaric age. So once this barbaric age comes to an end, and it will, and it's very close to an end. See these times we are in, 2020 to 2030. A lot of old stuff is being shaken up. Remember what we said, whenever conditioning faces its end, it fights back. This is what's happening right now, 2020 to 2030. There is chaos after chaos after chaos. Don't take it personally. This is just what happens when old institutions and methods and ways crumble. It looks chaotic. But that's because it's making space for new. So we are in a transition period, 2020 to 2030. The world's going to look so different after 2030. You're not going to believe it, okay? And at some point, people who want to do quantum leaps and live quantumly, that'll be so normal. It'll be like, quantum leaps will be absolutely as normal as drinking a glass of water. You get it? But today, they may be challenging because most of the world is not there yet. So expect that these things will happen from time to time. Don't look for them. Don't challenge them. Don't go poking people and telling them, oh, you're not evolved. You don't know how to do a bloody quantum leap, man. I know how to, don't go like, don't even need to tell people about this really unless they ask you. If people ask you, tell them. But if they don't ask you, just chill, man. Like, you don't need to go judging people and trying to feel better just because, you know a new thing or whatever. But even if you don't tell them, even if you don't ask them, even if you're just minding your own business, expect that resistance from within and from without will happen from time to time, because that's what happens when old breaks down and gives way to new. Your old beliefs may literally fight you. Your old tribe may literally fight you, sometimes very strongly. And this fight feels like, for example, doubt. It feels, for example, like betrayal. For example, it feels like confusion sometimes. For example, it feels fearful sometimes. For example, it feels like shame. But that's the worst one. Shame is something, if you feel shame, you need to go open about it, public, tell somebody. Because if you hide, shame sticks around because it needs shadows. Shame lives in the shadows. It lives in hiding. So if you want to burst out of shame, don't hide. It feels like you want to hide and the appropriate thing is to hide. Don't hide. Go public. Tell somebody, a safe person who won't judge you but doesn't need to tell you a solution. They just want to listen. And by starting to talk about it, the shame has no power. Remember, shame lives in the shadows. Okay, also, this resistance can feel like guilt. You might feel guilt like, oh, I'm letting these people down by not towing the line or whatever, and so on. Okay, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just telling you that resistance has certain ways to feel, that it feels like. Okay, so, but the point is, that's normal. We all go through it, okay? So don't whinge about it. Don't go, oh, poor me, I'm a victim. No, that's just normal. We all go through it. That's the nature of the beast, the nature of the game, whatever, But the point of encouragement I would like to give you is, don't worry. In this course and in our other courses, such as, the courses on the 4 masteries, and I'll show you that as we go on with this course, whatever, and actually I'll give it to you within this course, whatever. We will arm you with everything that you need to feel the fear and go beyond it and find your expanded self, find your untethered soul. We will give you everything you need. So don't worry. It's gonna work. It's gonna happen.